Hi, YouTube. Let's get Facebook involved before we start this week's Storytime Sunday. Hi, everyone. This um this week's Storytime Sunday is episode 9. I know I said last week's one was episode 9, but I made a mistake on the number. Last week's was episode 8. This one is episode 9, and this story is called Shaughnessy. It starts off with Tyrone Shaughnessy, the one of the biggest R&B producers in the world. He's like the P Diddy, like similar to P Diddy or Timberland or Khaled or someone of that caliber. He produced every R&B person out there. Now, he wasn't a Christian. He was far from a Christian. Um, he kind of went to church on Easter and Christmas, but that was about it. And when he was at the height of his career, he had everything. He had the Maserati. He had a boat. He had not a boat, a yacht. He lived in um, like a 10-bedroom mansion with like 6 bathrooms. Beautiful house. Um, and one day, a friend from high school, let's call him Jerry, uh, uh, bumped into him at a at a at a high school reunion. And now Jerry is a Christian. He's been a Christian for his life. Um, Grew up going to church and everything like that. And at Jerry's church, there was a singer. Her name was Tamra, and Tamara um, really wanted to sing professionally. And when she sang, it was just very. She was amazing. She had the voice like Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston and everything, just amazing. And when she would sing at church, people would just um, crying on their knees and really just um, really just be so moved by her voice. So Jerry said to Tyrone, um, you really gotta come hear this girl sing. You really gotta come. And Tyrone's like, man, I'm not really into the church thing like you are. And he says, um, she's got a really good voice, and I think she needs to cut a record deal. And she's in the church choir, but she doesn't only sing church stuff. She sings everything. I've known her forever. We grew up as kids together. We went to school together, and she's always wanted to sing. Uh, so so he's like, come to church. You've got to see this girl. And he's like, all right. And he's like, all right. He like reluctantly agrees because he knows the guy is very persistent, and he knows if he doesn't agree that Jerry will just keep after him to come to church to see this girl. And when he he goes to church, and when he walks in, he's like wearing the bling and the rings and everything, like just a total like thug. Like he walks up in the church like he owns the place, and people are like, "Oh my God, that's 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 Tyrone Shaughnessy," and they're like, oh my God, he's produced everyone, and they're so excited. So when he sits down through the worship songs, he sits through the announcement, and finally the choir is stepping up to sing. And he sees Tamra coming, like stepping out, this little short, shy girl, and he's like, oh my gosh, she's short, she's shy, she's pretty, but she's not really beautiful. She's like, oh my God, what did you bring me here for? And Jerry's like, wait till you hear her sing. So she starts to sing, why should I feel discouraged? And why should the shadows come? Why should my heart feel lonely and long for heaven and home? When Jesus is my portion, a constant friend is here. His eyes on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. I sing because I'm happy. I sing because I'm free. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. And then she sings it much better than I did, but that's the song she sings. And then when she finishes, when she sings it twice, and by the time she's finished, people are crying and people are on the floor, and people are just in tears, and people are just worshiping the Lord. And and then after, and Tyrone is just stunned. He cannot believe that this girl Tamara could sing like that. Her tone, her voice, her everything, it gave him chills. Like he hadn't felt that way in a long time. So what happens after church? He waits for her, and when she comes out of the choir room after putting her robe away, he says, "Hi, my name is Tyrone," and she says, "Yeah, I know who you are, Tyrone Shaughnessy." Excuse me. He says, "I know who you are, Tyrone Shaughnessy, the famous producer." Um, she's like, "Wow, it's nice to meet you." And he's like, "Wow, I just heard you sing, and may I say, um, wow, I'm still stunned. I still have chill bumps." He's like, "I still have chill bumps all over me." She's like, "Oh, thank you." Um, she's like, um, he's like, "Do you want to have coffee?" Um, and she's like, "I'm sorry, I'm not, um, I don't want a date." He's like, "No, no, no, this is not a date. I want to offer you a recording contract. I want to produce you." And she's like, "Really? Me? You want to produce me?" And he's like, "Yep, I haven't heard a voice like you in so long. Um, the industry is always looking for new talent, and you're different. There's something about you that is so um, drawing, and people are waiting for a voice like yours, and I can just tell that you have something to say." So she says, "Okay, let's go for coffee." So they go for coffee and they talk, and he explains to her a bit about the industry, a bit about what he was thinking, uh, about recording a demo and shopping it around. And once they find the right song, recording a demo and him producing it and shopping it around to different uh, record 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 companies and seeing if anyone would sign her. And no, no, because he is a producer, but because he works with other artists, he doesn't really have his own company. So he tells her how the industry works like that. And what happens is after he tells her, um, she says, he says, "Now the key is to find the right song." Um, he's like, "I know you've been singing gospel music all your life, and although there is a market for that, I think your voice would be huge in the R&B industry. And she says, oh no, I've always wanted to sing R&B. Um, I've always loved soul. I've always loved R&B. Um, and that's what I've always wanted to sing. She's like, in fact, I have a song that I wrote, which I think may be perfect for our for our purposes. And so she said she takes her phone out at that moment and sends him the song, and he listens to the song right there at the table, and he's expecting some mediocre song um about love or whatever. But the song that she sends him is so moving and is so awesome, and the beat is so right now with what's on the radio and whatever. He's like, who wrote this? She's like, well, I did. And what happens is, um, he says, this is a great song and it would really go with your voice. So why don't we record it in the studio? So over the next week, they find some time to record this in the studio. And after they record it, it is so, and now it is so hip that he is like, yes, this song is great. So they take it to one of his record execs and they listen to it. They love the song. And so, long story short, the song gets picked up and it's huge. And after that comes the album, and the album is huge. And then the next album, and then the Grammys start coming, and then the accolades start coming in. She went from being a church girl in a small town to being a superstar overnight. And although it was awesome, like doing all the press and whatever, her life changed. Like now she couldn't go anywhere or do anything, or like now she couldn't go anywhere or do anything, and her life was totally in a fishbowl. And it was really great, like people screaming her name and all the awards and stuff. But she was so busy with interviews and shooting music videos and all of that. And everything she did was like number one. Like, and she was so like overwhelmed by it all. But through it all, he was right there with her. And she'd been on the charts for about 2 years. And then after about 2 years, feelings had started to develop between the two of them. And one night in the studio, they had they were just finished recording for her third album. And then she said, I just wanted to thank you. Nothing, this wouldn't happen if it wasn't for you coming to church and seeing me and all of that. He's like, I just want to thank you. And he's like, you're welcome. And then they end up kissing in the recording studio. So when they end up kissing now, it develops into a more serious romantic relationship, because for 2 years he's stuck by her side. He's done everything. He's been there through it all, and they've fallen in love, and then a short year after that they get married. And then it's great for a while. She's up on top. There's her third album did well, her fourth album did well, and she seems to have this uncanny ability to have staying power that not many people have. And all the stuff that she gets and all the treatment that she gets, with all the cars and the houses and the influence, is really great. But the one thing, she's missing, she doesn't have a life. She kind of lost herself in that when this whole thing happened, he was there to guide her, but she kind of lost herself. Like, it went by so fast. Like, she made her first album and then made a video, and then it all went by so fast. And then now, by her fifth album, she is still going. She's still on the charts. Most of her singles hit number one within the first week. And with that kind of pressure, it's so much. And it finally comes to a head. Oh no, I forgot to tell you. A year after they were married, I told you that they got married. A year after they were married, she got pregnant. And they were so happy. They're like, oh, baby, we're going to have a baby, and this is going to be awesome. And but within the first few months before the end of the first trimester, um, she was coming home from a Grammy Grammy party, and she started to bleed. And what happened was, not only did she miscarry, but one of her tubes ruptured. So they had to rush her to the hospital because she had bled so much that she lost a lot of blood and the tubes ruptured. So she had to take that tube out. And then when she took that tube out, it would be harder for her to get pregnant. So after this, it was like it kind of drew a wedge between them. Like they stopped talking, stopped communicating, did all of that. And they were still working together, but the pace of Hollywood was so fast. Every day was something, every minute was something. And not only music videos and appearances and award shows and albums and press, but just the lack of just being able to go home and have a regular life, have a regular meal without people being there, you know, and have the ability to not have anything scheduled and just to hang out. They didn't have that. So with the loss of the baby and the loss of a fallopian tube and the loss of just having that marriage together, so um, their marriage started to crumble. Now, she still had one tube and one fallopian tube, so it was harder for her to get pregnant, but the doctor said it was not impossible, but it was not advised for her to get pregnant again. And there's one time where um, the she was running so late that she forgot to take her birth control pill, and she didn't remember that night that she forgot to take her birth control pill, and um, so what, when they were making love, he didn't use a condom, so she got pregnant because um, they didn't use any birth control. And with this pregnancy, she lost that baby, and again, um, it was so bad, this miscarriage, that they couldn't save any of her organs, not her uterus, not any anything, not her ovaries. She had to have a complete hysterectomy, or else she would have died. Um, so after the second failed pregnancy, their marriage just be it was in tatters. They started to argue and fight all the time. And to make things worse, she wasn't eating, she wasn't sleeping, because she hadn't dealt with the first loss. And then on top of the second loss, and on top of the hysterectomy, and the whole schedule thing, um, it was just totally tearing her apart. And she didn't say no. She didn't say no at all. Anything they wanted her to do, she was like, yes, I'll do it. Yes, I'll do it. Yes, I'll do it. She hardly slept, hardly ate, or ate the wrong foods. And it all came to a head, um, like I said, with her, I think, uh, fifth album. Um, she was on stage doing a concert in front of screaming fans, and everybody was lined up to see her. Her husband was totally uh, excited. They were all excited. Actually, no, her husband by this point uh, started being more the producer and less of the husband. And the manager money had started going missing from her checks, and they weren't sure what was going on. So the stress of that and the stress of everything else, the stress of losing the two pregnancies and the stress of everything else, they were both crumbling. And the thing about it is, they didn't talk when they were crumbling. It was silent. It was either a screaming match or it was complete silence. And so she was on stage doing a concert to promote her first album. And in the middle of the concert, she started to say, "I feel so hot. Doesn't anybody else feel hot in here?" And people were like, "No, we don't feel hot." So, so she took off her top in the middle of the show, and it was not part of the show. Um, and then she sang for a bit, and then she took off her underwear and started to basically strip naked in front of everyone. And then they realized that she was having a public breakdown. So he began to rush her off the stage, and she started screaming. She started swearing, screaming, all of that. And they took her to a doctor because this wasn't right thinking. Um, Something was wrong. And it turned out that she was having a major meltdown with the money issue and with the baby issues and with the hectic schedule and having no time for herself. She was having a breakdown. And then she came out of the uh, mental hospital. No, the doctors, they said, well, she doesn't need to be admitted to a mental hospital yet. What she needs is a break. What she needs is some time to just relax and be herself. And the doctor says, if you don't mind me saying, Tyrone, what Tamara needs is you to be her husband, not her producer, not her manager, nothing else, but she needs you to be her husband. And anyway, after this episode, um, they have to take some doctor mandated time off. And okay, so at first she doesn't want to go and he doesn't want to go because it'll affect what's going on with the album, but they have to go. So they rent this little cabin, and for the first little while they're there, they're always fighting. No, for the first little while, they're all it's silence between um, both of them. But as time goes on, they start talking. Um, they start communicating. They start falling in love again. Uh, and there's one day where she is what breaks the silence is that there's after a few days of silence, he hears her singing by the piano. His eye is on the sparrow again, which is the song that she first sung, and they start singing it together. And Tamara said, "You know what we lost? Why we lost our marriage?" He's like, "What, baby?" She's like, "I lost uh, Jesus, and when I didn't lose Jesus, but I lost my relationship with Jesus, and after I lost my relationship with Jesus, I lost my relationship with myself." He's like, she's like, "I need to get that back." And he's like, "Okay, baby, whatever you need. Do you need to go to church? Yes, that would be a start." And then she goes to church. Um, no. So she's like, "That would be a start." And then they start talking again and falling in love again. And then after these weeks off, um, she when they get back home, she goes back to church. But as I said, he was never a churchgoer. So she's like, and when they want her to sing something raunchy, something sexy, to be like her old self, she said, "No, I can't do this anymore. I want to sing, but I have to sing for the Lord." And she's like, "I'm sorry." And he's like, "Babe, what are you doing?" And she's like, "Tyrone, I can't get swept up again. I need to sing for the Lord or nothing." And he's like, "Okay, we'll do the Gospels then." So they have a few meetings with a gospel label. They find one they like and one that's integrity, full of integrity and all that stuff. So now she's singing gospel music, and the pace is not as hectic as when she was in the R&B world, and because they heard about her um, breakdown. But still, although she's a Christian and born again, he is still not a person of faith. And so she prays for him every night. Um, and then about a year went by since she started singing gospel music. So what happened though is he started getting all these headaches, and she's like, "Babe, want to go to the doctor?" And he's like, "No, no, no, I'm fine," like a typical man. And she's like, "Babe, you need to go to the doctor." And he's like, "No, no, no, I'm fine." So one day in the recording studio, um, he collapses, and it turns out that he has brain cancer. And the doctors say it's very bleak and he might only live about 6 months because the brain cancer was there, but it was so aggressive that he didn't feel any symptoms. And when he started feeling symptoms, he ignored them for a long time. So what happened was when he ignored them, the cancer spread so fast And then when the cancer spread, it was just so awful. So she got together with her church sisters, and then they prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed. She didn't know what to do, so she cried out to the Lord. She got together with her church sister, church pastor, everyone, and just prayed for him and prayed for him and prayed for him. And it was the chemo wasn't working, nothing was working. So she still prayed and prayed for him, and nothing was working. So he so she decided to get her pastor to talk to him. And her pastor walked in the room and said, "Son, when are you going to stop running from God? You've been running from God for years, and the Lord wants you to back, come to Him, like your wife turned her life around. You, you saw how your wife was before she gave her life fully to the Lord. Look what she's doing now. She's on the road doing what she loves it. But now she's in here praying for you. God can change your life, son." And the pastor really talks to him. And he's like, he's like, "I'm afraid I've made so many mistakes, not only with my wife, but girls in the past." And the pastor said, "There is no condemnation, son. There's only There is only salvation, and the Lord is just waiting for you to realize that He's not some religious figure that you can turn on, and turn off at will. He's a merciful, loving God who wants a relationship with you, and that He accepts the Lord. Um, Tyrone accepts the Lord, and as soon as he accepts the Lord and prays with the pastor, the medicine that wasn't working before, the exact same chemo, the exact same radiation, the tumor began to shrink because a peace came over him when he accepted the Lord. So he got a full recovery just because he received the Lord's love and the Lord's forgiveness, and he was able to just be totally restored and healed. I hope you guys enjoyed this story. I really enjoyed telling it. See you next week for episode 10. I can't believe it's been 10 weeks since we've been doing this. I'll see you later, guys. Bye. So YouTube, I'll see you next Saturday. Bye.